Good afternoon or morning or evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to the webinar on the Master's Program in Community Development at the Carsey School of Public Policy at the University of New Hampshire. My name is Michael Swack, and I'm the director of the Master's Program. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Robin Husledge. And Robin will also be monitoring the Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section or the chat section, and I'll take questions as we go along. The goal today is to talk about the program, give you information about the curriculum, about the requirements for the program, the application, the costs of the program, and then to introduce you to one of our current students, Yyokkia Lawson, who will talk a little bit about her experience in the program, and we'll also take your questions. So the webinar should last about 30 minutes, start with the 15-minute introduction of the program, and then we'll move into the interview section. And as I said, feel free at any time to post a question in the chat or in the Q&A, and I will stop periodically and take those questions. So the Masters in Community Development program is part of the Carsey School of Public Policy, which has 3 academic programs: the Master of Public Administration and the Master in Public Policy. The Masters in Community Development program is an online program. It's currently offered entirely online, from orientation through your final presentations, and basically uses a cohort model. What that means is you start and go through the program with the same people. You take the same required courses together. The point here is you are part of a group and smaller groups that come out of the larger cohort, and you go through the program together. And we found that the cohort model really creates an environment where people get to know each other, support each other, can do assignments and have discussions together outside of class. So this is a model that we really think is a good educational model. In terms of the cohort model, you should know that the courses are both synchronous and asynchronous. They're primarily asynchronous, meaning you do the work when you want to do the work, when you have time to do the work, with a few exceptions. The exceptions being that each class meets in person online via Zoom, typically once every week or 2 weeks, depending on the term, for about 60 to 90 minutes. You'll be informed in advance when that time is, but it means that in any given week, where you may be taking 2 courses, you may have a course online. We know that people can't always make the time that is scheduled, although we encourage them to. So all of the synchronous classes, the Zoom classes, are also recorded and made available to anyone who isn't able to attend and can look at the recording afterwards. The basis of the program really is this capstone project that you do over the course of the project, but it's also very much practitioner-oriented in the courses as well. So in addition to the capstone, which I'll talk about in just a minute, there are a series of practical courses in management, finance, public policy, and economics that supplement the capstone project. In addition, there are a range of elective courses ranging from health courses, community development finance courses, housing courses, that sort of thing. If you look on the slide here, we list the core courses. These are the required courses that everybody takes as part of the cohort. The experiential courses is this 4-project sequence. I'll go into more detail in a minute, but you take it over the entire program, starting with the introduction and ending with a project evaluation. And as I mentioned, a series of elective courses. The capstone project, you start with an introduction, and we've had capstones, as you see, all over the world. The purpose of the capstone is to give you experience while going through the course at the same time. Many of the questions around the project, starting with when you start the program, is do I have to come with a project idea? And the answer is no. Many, in fact, probably most students in the program decide what their project will be after they start the program. That is, the first term is really structured to get you to think about what are the project possibilities, what can you do within the 14 or so month time period that you're in the program. Is it something you want to do through your workplace or outside your workplace? Is it something that you want to do that's really brand new that will help build your career path? So there's a lot of flexibility in what you choose for a project. And during that first term in the program, you'll have the opportunity to explore options. Having said that, many people come in with a good idea of what area they would like to do a project in, meaning I want to do it in housing, or I want to do it in community development finance, but that idea may not be fully formed. So that formation really occurs in the first term. The series of 4 courses includes the intro to project, then project design, project implementation and management, and finally project evaluation. So in the design plan, you go through a series of steps in terms of how you model the project. We use a logic model as the basic tool. Many of you are probably familiar with that, but looks at inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes you're trying to achieve. An outcome is really how will people be better off after having undertaken that program or being part of the project. So again, each step along the way, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation, which you take in the final term, are tied to what you're actually doing in the field, either tied to your current workplace, or as I said, for many people, outside their workplace. And we've often helped identify organizations or places, if you have an idea of what you'd like to do, but not sure where you can locate it, we'll often help with that as well. Robin, let me stop here for a second and see if there are any questions that have come up yet.
Hi, Michael. Yes. Can you provide more examples of the types of capstone projects students do?
Okay. Yeah, the types of capstones, as I said, it's really a pretty broad range. So for example, some people might be involved in community development finance. Their project might be to design a new lending program for immigrants, a micro lending program, for example. Another project might be to do a housing analysis to look at the types of housing that your organization might develop and what are the best ways to do that. There may be one in public health that involves doing just a feasibility analysis in terms of a new project. What we understand is a project, a real project doesn't necessarily fit into a 14-month time frame where there's a neat beginning, middle, and end that exactly corresponds with your time in the program. But what we want you to do is be working on some element of that project while still going through the sequence so that you know and develop the skills for the other parts. So again, it can be anything from an initial preliminary analysis, feasibility analysis for a particular program, to actually an evaluation of an existing program. And it can be anything from developing training modules, that's a pretty common one, to develop training for a new lending, housing, business development, health oriented projects. So pretty wide range of capstone projects and flexibility in determining what you would like to do.
Thanks, Michael. Another question is, can you explain tests and homework throughout the course?
Tests and homework throughout the course. So it varies quite a bit from course to course. I mean, some of the courses, for example, the public policy will be more writing oriented. That is to look at policy, do policy analysis. So there'll be generally a series of short writing assignments. In the finance class, the financial management class, the assignments will be more sort of financial case studies, where you might do an analysis of a financial statement, look at a balance sheet, interpret the balance sheet. So that might be an assignment that you would actually do in a group, perhaps write up your own answers, but again, there's a lot of emphasis on people having discussions in groups. In the introductory course that I teach, there's a single longer assignment along with a short written assignment, but asks you to, based on the readings and discussions you have in the class, develop your own theory of community development. What works and what doesn't, how do theory and practice connect? That ties also into your project. That's one longer paper, 8 to 10 pages or so. So there's really quite a bit of variability and based on the course itself, what the assignments will be.
Okay, that's all the questions I see for now, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, great. So as you see on your screen now, the program is a 36 credit course. The 9 core and experiential courses that I mentioned before, again, the experiential being the 4 project related courses, and then 3 electives related to your areas of interest. The program can be taken over a period of as little as 14 months or as much as 24 months. What that means is that you can take as little as 1 course at a time if you want. The 24 months usually is taking a couple courses in the summer and then spreading out over a period of 5 to 8 week mini terms that we have, courses according to your schedule. So one can take the 12 courses in the 14 months. Again, there's a sequence of courses starting in the summer and then going through the fall and spring, where people generally take 1 to 2 courses at a time and follow the sequence of courses throughout that time period. So again, flexibility in how quickly you complete the course. So you'll see in a minute, it has no impact on cost because the cost is tied per course. So if you take fewer courses, you pay less. If you take courses over 24 months, then the tuition is charged over that period of time. The application process itself requires a bachelor's degree, your transcripts. We ask for 3 letters of reference, a personal statement that talks about why you're interested in the program, your resume, and a $65 application fee. The deadline for applications for the summer term is April 15th. We encourage people to start in the summer term. Most people start at the same time. That facilitates the cohort model where everybody starts at the same time and goes through the basic required courses together. The GRE is not required, and the TOEFL is required for international applicants unless their undergraduate degree was in English, in which case there's no need for the TOEFL exam. Quickly, the cost of the program. You can see on your screen there the cost for New Hampshire residents. We are a public university, and for out-of-state residents. And we do provide scholarship assistance, both in the form of grants as well as access to loans. We also have partnership agreements with all of the organizations listed on the bottom of your screen there. So if you are part of the Opportunity Finance Network, LISC, NeighborWorks, City Year, see a couple others up there, National Development Council, we provide scholarship assistance and matching assistance in the case of some of the others in the form of grant money. But it's not limited to that. If you're not part of any of these organizations, we still have both grant and access to financial aid in terms of loan programs. So again, we have a financial aid office. We'll work with you to put together a financial package that will help you get through the program. So let me stop again there, Robin, and see if any other questions have come up.
Yes, we have a few more questions. Is the program best suited for someone who is currently working in community development?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't say it's best suited, but I would put it this way, in an incoming cohort. So the cohorts are roughly 20 students or so. So among the 20 students each year, I would say probably 2/3 or so have community development background, meaning are currently have at least a couple years experience specifically in community development. But we have as much as, I'd say, 1/4 to 1/3 of people who don't have direct community development experience, may be looking at a career change. So looking at the degree as a way of helping launch them into a career change, or have worked in an affiliated field but have become more interested in community development. So perhaps have worked in education, but are looking at how to take their education background and move more into fields like housing or community development finance or micro enterprise, something like that. So I would say many, but not all, come in with background. There's also quite a diversity. I mean, one of the real strengths of the program, I mean, I think we have outstanding faculty, people who are all practitioners in their own right, but also very experienced teachers. But the real strength is the students who come in the program. And it's an amazing range of people, including age, ethnic background, Latino, Black. It's really a wide range, and it really creates a very powerful dynamic in the classroom itself. Something we'll talk to Yyokkia about in just a minute.
We do have one more question, Michael. Can you speak to the completion rate for those who enter the program?
Yeah, I would say that the completion rate is quite high. The warning on that is that often people come in saying, I'm gonna finish in the 14 months. And then as reality sets in, and as we know over the past year, there's been an awful lot of reality. People slow down and take it at a slower pace. So most people, almost all, finish the program. The question is, how quickly do they finish the program? And I think the answer to that is many people who start out thinking it will take 14 months make a decision while they're in the program to slow down a little bit, go a course at a time, and are more likely to finish over the 24-month period as well. I don't know, Robin, you might have a better sense of percentage, what percentage start and finish 14 months?
It's a very small number that don't complete the program. We have had some students that have had to step away for a year because of health reasons or family reasons that come back. We've had some that have, taken a step back for a couple of years and have come back because life is complicated and there's many things that affect people's lives. But we do everything possible to support students and with extenuating circumstances to work with them so that they can complete the program, because that's the ultimate goal.
Right.
So the completion rate is very, very high.
Right.
That's all the questions I see, Michael.
Okay, just a couple last points, and then I'll introduce Yyokkia, the Masters in Community Development Program. Again, we have people all over the world, multiple countries. Again, one of the strengths is being able to study with people from all over the United States and beyond. The capstone projects have been all over, again, in some of the career issues, and we work with people on job placement as well, but here are some of our more recent graduates and some of the places where they're working and their job descriptions. Again, careers range from affordable housing, community development finance, nonprofits, international NGOs, project management work, fundraising, again, a very wide range. So I'm going to turn off the screen share in just a second and introduce Yyokkia in person. Just a little about her. She's at the Institute for Housing, Health, and Economic Development in Athens, Georgia. Just talked to her, and the weather's not as bad there as a lot of the country, so we're happy for that. And so let me introduce Yyokkia. Yyokkia, if you can turn on your camera and your microphone now. Hi, and welcome.
Hi, everybody.
How are you today?
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm really glad to be here today.
Well, we're glad to have you. Thanks for agreeing to do this. So let's just start out by asking, why did you pick this program? Well, first, give us a little background about yourself. Tell us who you are, where you live, what your work is.
My name is Yyokkia Lawson. I live right outside of Athens, Georgia, in a little town called Hull. I actually, for the early part of my career, did a lot more in the financial industry, and I transitioned into community development. And I did that by taking a position actually in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for an organization whose goal was community revitalization. So I took a position as community investment coordinator, and really what my job was to work with try to get investors, industry leaders to come into blighted neighborhoods or neighborhoods that have really suffered from disinvestment, and try to get them to invest in those neighborhoods and bring jobs and things like that. And our organization did a lot also in housing. So we worked a lot with low income housing tax credits, and I organized a lot of community trainings and events like that. And so we were doing a lot of home buyers and things like that. And it really put me back on the path. I always had a passion for housing and things like that. So it kind of really reconnected me with that. And at some point, I wound up back in Atlanta. I was still working with a lot of small businesses. And I said, okay, I really enjoyed working with home buyers, and I kind of tried my hand at housing counts and things like that. And as it would happen in my hometown, they had created a land trust, and they had an opening there. And so I took a position at the land trust, and I wound up over directing a program that really dealt with creating homeowners and creating business owners. And so we handled housing counseling. We had housing classes and financial literacy classes and business classes, and I wound up developing a micro lending program. And so it was really successful. And I was just noticing that we were getting a lot of people coming in from some of the smaller towns. And I really was very interested in rural development even before I moved back home. And what would happen is, because Athens is the main hub in Northeast Georgia, people didn't have a lot of resources in a lot of the towns, so they would have to come into Athens and kind of to access resources and stuff. And it kind of just put me back on the path, or put me on the path that I always wanted to be on, which was rural development and doing housing economic development in rural areas. And so this past year, I kind of just stepped out and said, okay, it's time. And so I created IHHED, the Institute for Housing, Health, and Economic Development, and that's our focus, is rural development.
Yeah, great. So why did you decide to go back to school, and why did you pick the Master's in Community Development program at Carsey?
Honestly, two reasons, the major itself and then the structure of the program. So I knew that I wanted to go back to school for my master's, and there were some things that I needed to learn to really do the things I need to do, but I couldn't quite find the program that did what I wanted. And so I knew I didn't want to do public policy. And I also knew I didn't quite want to do public administration, because I actually had several friends graduate from public administration programs. And the ones that I had seen, really, you take public administration, then you have to choose a track. And so that wasn't quite what I wanted. And so I was kind of, for a while, I was like, well, am I going to have to, maybe to do what I want, maybe do urban planning or real estate development? Or, maybe I just settle for a graduate certificate in economic development. So nothing was quite fitting. And then when I saw the program at Carsey, and I was like, community development, that is really what I want to do, because it encompasses all of the stuff that I really want to learn and I want to do. And then the way I think it was worded online was community development, policy, and practice. And when I saw that word practice, I was like, oh, jackpot. This is exactly what I need. I need a program that focuses on practice and things like that. And so when I went on the website and really looked into the program, I loved the way that it was structured, and it really resonated with me because I just like the way the classes, everything was laid out, being more project design and program design based rather than thesis based, because really when you're doing community development, so much of what we do are implementing programs, implementing projects. So it just made sense. And for me, in terms of just how the curriculum is designed and delivered, the way you're assessed, is assessed, it just, for me, it was just a good fit.
So that's a good lead in for you to tell us a little bit about your project.
So my particular project is I'm doing a training program for housing counselors. So one of the issues we have, particularly in rural areas, is that there are, in my region, Northeast Georgia, there are not enough practitioners of housing counseling, people know housing counseling, to be able to meet the need that's out there. So people need help understanding the home buying process, being walked through the credit process. How do I apply for a mortgage? But there just not enough people who are trained in that to help. So while I was working at the land trust, what I came to realize is that I was one of the few HUD, really one of the only, really our office had the only HUD certified counselors in the region. And my colleague actually took a position in Atlanta, so that was out. So I was literally the only HUD certified counselor from Athens to the South Carolina line. And so I realized as I'm going forward is that we have to create more practitioners if people are going to be assisted. And so I'm doing a housing counseling training program to train people to become counselors, and more of a train the trainer type thing, just creating.
How does that fit into the project curriculum so far? Has that been a good fit, or?
It's been an excellent fit because the way the classes are structured, you start each semester you have a project-based class. So you have one that talks about project design, and then you'll have one that says project implementation, project monitoring. So each step of the way, everything you need to do there's a class for it that actually helps you prepare for your project one step at a time, and how to develop a logic model. And then, we're going to do a research, and then we're going to do interviews with people, so it's been wonderful. Actually, I've loved it a lot. I tell people all the time, I actually am enjoying grad school more than I enjoyed undergrad, way more.
That's good. So why can't I mentioned that this is a cohort program. Can you tell us a little bit about your cohort and how that's worked?
Well, with cohorts, you come in as a group and you all start together. And it's just our cohort is composed of professionals from all around the country, and really, I really can say all around the world, because we have a couple of international students there as well. And so what it does is it makes for great conversations and discussions. And so anybody who works in community development will tell you that what's amazing about talking to other people is that sometimes the solution to problems you have are not in your town. Sometimes somebody has figured out the solution who's in Boise, Idaho, or who's in Boston, or who's in Seattle. And so talking to people who have gone through that and who have figured out some things, and sometimes just expressing, frustration, being able to vent with people who understand. And so it's really amazing, because what happens is you really become a family after a while, and you care about what's going on with them in their communities, and they care about what's going on with you. And so you really get kind of attached to each other. So it's really nice. It becomes more of a family environment.
So, Yyokkia, a lot of people who are in the program have been out of school for a long time. And so they're a little concerned. It's like, what's it going to be like when I get back in school? Am I going to be able to cut it and all that? What have you found is the most challenging about the program, and what strategies have you developed to deal with those challenges?
I think the most challenging thing sometimes are the time constraints. And it's not really from being out of school, it's from being a working professional who's going back to school.
Yeah.
And so everybody in the cohort is pretty much working and, all at different levels. So some people are executives and some people are analysts and some people are program staff. And so, and then a lot of times, many of us have families. So being able to juggle the taking classes, squeezing classes into that. And so really it's like anything else you do, it's prioritizing, setting aside some time, what can I give up for maybe a year or a year and a half? And really that's the toughest thing. I think people think that it's going to be the going back to school and that the schoolwork is going to be tough. And I mean, there's a lot of reading. Be honest, it's a grad school program, so there's a lot of reading, but you're doing so much talking, exchanging ideas that it really is very fun as well. But I think the biggest thing is the time constraint. Yeah.
I guess the last question, and then we'll see if anyone else has questions as well. I don't see any in the chat now, but if you could talk a little bit about being in an all online program. Again, for a lot of people, that's new. Maybe they've taken a course or a short training online, but what's it like taking an entire master's program online? The combination of asynchronous and synchronous courses, projects, staying in touch, has that been challenging?
For me, no. I really enjoyed it, and it actually was attractive to me because I actually had the thought of going back to school horror stories of riding around a campus looking for a parking spot. So I really enjoy the online aspect, but I enjoy it even more now that I'm in it because I think it's not the way people envision it. Even though it's an online program, it actually has the feel to me of being face-to-face because it's so interactive. And so I think sometimes people think that they're going to be sitting at a computer and a professor is going to be lecturing them. And it's like, oh, I can't deal with that. But so much of what they do here at Carsey School is that it's a lot of interaction. So there's a lot of class discussions in breakout rooms, and you do some group work. And so you feel like you're still getting the same effect of what you would get if you were doing a class face-to-face, because you're still face-to-face with people and you're talking and you're interacting. So even though it's online, to me, it hasn't felt like it's online. And I actually, I like the structure a lot, really, on having that class once a week and then having things do, or, you're meeting with people, with your, according to your schedules. I've liked it a lot. I've really enjoyed it.
Great. Robin, do you see any other questions?
No, I think we've covered everything unless anyone wants to post a last minute question for Yyokkia or you, Michael, about the program. But at this point, I don't see any. Reverend Pasa was having issues with his network, so I let him know that this is being recorded and we will send out a link probably tomorrow to everyone that attended so that you can watch it later if you had, you wanted to remember what happened and or you had network issues.
Great. Let me just check. Yeah. Yyokkia, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. You take time out of your schedule. And thank you all who joined us today as well. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with me or with Robin. We'd be happy to answer your questions. And I guess there's just a poll, if you wouldn't mind taking the poll before you sign off. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us today. Hope to talk to you soon. I did see one last question. Would you please talk about the trainings available to Center for Impact Finance? Yeah, if people are still on, I can I can do that briefly. The Center for Impact Finance is a center I run that's at Carsey. We do a lot on community development finance. We offer an annual training when there's not COVID with self-help in North Carolina, a 3-day training on community development finance. We're currently offering a series of training on solar financing for community-based organizations, including credit unions, community loan funds, community banks, that looks at both individual and community solar. Those programs you can learn about on our website as well and sign up if you're interested. Those are at no cost. And we offer other trainings from time to time, again, specifically geared for practitioners, generally short-term training events, which you can find out on our website. And Nick has just posted the link for that in the chat room as well. So great. Well, thank you for those who joined, and thanks for taking the time to fill out the poll. And I don't know if there's anyone left. Nick, if we sign off, will they be able to finish the poll? Looks like we only had a handful taking it anyhow. So.
Yeah. It means the poll is optional. So.
Okay, great. Great. Well, then thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it. Take care, everybody.